movies from various genres and decades. Stay tuned for this episode. All right, well, we're back with another episode. This is episode 22.
23.
23, wow. See, we skipped up one. And this is
I believe,
a second part to the 90s cult classic movies, our 5 favorites. And I'll let Bill start off the show.
Okay, jumping right in. Excuse me. So my first movie, 90s cult movie, I'm going all over the place today. I don't have any kind of theme except for our gathered theme of 90s cult movies. So my first one is a dark comedy called Death Becomes Her. I saw this in the theater when it first came out, and I really liked it. It had an all-star cast. It was, a huge movie actually then. I think it kind of died off at some point afterwards. It just fell off the face of the earth. Every now and again, it's like the answer to a trivia question or something. But it stars Bruce Willis, and he has 2 women kind of fighting over him, Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep. And they get some kind of a curse where they can't die, right? So they can't die. But then, like, one falls down the stairs and breaks every bone in her body, something that would have killed her. But Bruce Willis happens to be a plastic surgeon. So he keeps piecing them back together. But just like anything that breaks and gets put back together, it doesn't quite look the way it did before. So these 2 women keep catfighting over each other and killing each other and dying. And he keeps piecing them back together so they look something like what they would have looked like if they were still alive. And it just goes down and downhill from there. It is very dark humor. I found it hilarious, but that's, I love that kind of humor. So, it was me all over. But it's very good. It's from 1992. So Bruce Willis was, already a pretty big star at the time, about to really break through and become even bigger. But for Bruce Willis now, I hear he's practically a vegetable with Alzheimer's kind of thing, but still hanging in there. But I always thought he was a good actor. He seemed pretty personable in interviews where I've seen him. Never seen too much. And I've always been a Goldie Hawn fan, going all the way back to Laugh-In when I was a kid, watching that on reruns growing up. So she's another one I see in almost everything. Meryl Streep, good actress, won numerous Academy Awards. Kind of makes you wonder why she's not better remembered for this one, but and why this one doesn't show up more often than it does. But it's definitely worth a watch if you like that kind of dark humor. I don't think everybody got it all the way, actually, but anyway, you have to have that kind of weird, quirky kind of humor. But if you have that, you probably would like Death Becomes Her. So that's my first movie.
I would say it's also a horror comedy because there's plenty of horror there.
There is.
Oh, yeah.
There is, actually.
It's a great movie. It is so much fun.
Yeah, I saw that one in the theater too. Yeah.
I did too. Yeah.
I think I saw it on a date with my wife at the time, actually. Well, she wasn't my wife then, but
I haven't seen it in years, but
yeah,
I remember the makeup effects being really, really good.
They were, yeah. Actually, I did revisit it not too long ago, maybe 2 years ago, something like that. A couple years ago, I revisited it. It still holds up pretty well.
What's funny is one of our grandkids watched it recently and she loves it. She thought it was a great movie. She absolutely loves that movie.
Most people who watch it do, if you have that kind of weird, quirky humor, do wind up liking it. I loved it.
Oh yeah, I think that was probably why it didn't go over too well. American quirky humor. Unfortunately, I noticed that a lot of Americans don't get it. They want slapstick, 100% slapstick. They don't like it quirky.
We are less quirky than a lot of countries.
But yeah, that's a good one. I'll admit I haven't seen it since it came out in the theaters.
It had been a long time between that I hadn't seen it, but I did finally get around. I've been meaning to rewatch this thing forever, and I finally did a couple years ago. And still held up. At least the humor side of it, anyway, held up very well.
All right, there you go.
Okay, well, I am going to start with a movie that also has at least one really big actor in it. But it's a movie that everybody seems to hate. And I actually like a lot. And Bill, you're going to probably want to sound off on this because you're the Frankenstein expert of the group. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I know everybody hates Robert De Niro as the monster. And it's a different kind of monster. It's more like the book. It's an intelligent monster. And I think the movie actually is a lot closer to the book than pretty much anything else we've seen. And I really enjoy it. I think the movie holds up really well. I rewatched it, I don't know, maybe 6, 8 months ago, and I thought it was a really entertaining film. Um, and I don't see all the complaints about De Niro. He wasn't being quite De Niro. I mean, yeah, it's De Niro, so you're going to get a little of that, but it wasn't over the top. I mean, I didn't really, I bought him as the monster, you know? It's a fun movie, I think. Not well, maybe not fun. It's a very entertaining movie. Uh, it's not
Oh
like
yeah,
it's not like your
monsters throwing
popcorn.
around people.
Yeah, it's not like your popcorn action movie, but it is a very
No.
good movie.
Also, the Dr. Frankenstein was Kenneth Branagh, who at the time was a very famous Shakespeare actor. He was
Right,
in a
right.
lot of Shakespeare movies,
Oh yeah.
and I've seen a number of his Shakespeare things. So,
Yeah, and
he's
Aidan Quinn is
he's
in it.
top notch.
Aidan Quinn is in it too, and
Yes.
he's a fairly small part as the ship's captain. But that was interesting to me because I used to be good friends with Aiden's brother because Aiden's from my hometown. And so I
Okay.
used to, once in a while, I sat and played poker with Aiden a few times. So I knew Aiden. So that was kind of
That's
a
cool.
nice touch for me. But
Okay. Yeah, it is. It's very close to the book until the female monster comes to life. That's where it
yeah,
veers off. That's where I think a lot of people didn't like. That's the area that where most people didn't like that. But it was an interesting take because what he did was it's after Elizabeth. I don't know. Am I giving too much of a spoiler if I do this? Where the female monster comes from?
I don't know.
Um,
Here's the funny thing. It's an old movie, but on the other hand, a lot of people haven't seen it because there's so much hate out there
right.
for it and
It's
has
true.
such bad reviews. So
It's
I don't know
true.
if that's a spoiler or not.
Yeah, he does. He does actually create the female monster, and she does come to life. And it's kind of a reincarnation of some of these, more than one of the other characters. I guess I'll just leave it at that, so I don't
Yeah.
give away too much. But I do agree with you with Robert De Niro. I think he was great in it. I don't think there was anything wrong with his performance. I think, as far as I know, that was the main thing that I've seen most of the complaints about was where it veered off towards the end and the female monster comes to life. Oh, they do a great dance scene together. I mean, that's a little bit of a spoiler too, but I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed that I gave you that because
No, I don't think
we
so.
warned
Do you,
about that.
do you think that another reason for his hate is, well, I guess hate, is a strong word, but is that it was De Niro doing something way out of uh, his normal kind of movies? You'd think that, why him? I mean,
I don't know because I think most of the complaints I've seen about De Niro just say that he's being De Niro and it doesn't fit the movie. And I don't think that's accurate, but I think, maybe people were wanting to see that De Niro and they weren't getting it, so they just sort of projected it on there.
I think
I don't know.
no, what
De Niro-
were they
De Niro was
expecting?
Frankenstein
Frankenstein
monster
to
to be
go
very
look in
good.
the mirror and say, "You talking to me?"
Yeah, exactly.
What? It's like, no, we're not talking to
I know
somebody else.
some of the complaints I saw too were the Kenneth Branagh because he's so famous for being very accurate with Shakespeare. Although technically a lot of them take down as Shakespeare stuff because sometimes he gets the time space wrong and that but but because he's supposed to be the one who stays faithful to the source material, and then he veered off with the monster coming to life and stuff. But they did an interesting take on that though. And then they also had the great big mechanisms, machinery to bring the monster to life, which of course isn't in the book, but it just makes such great cinema to have giant machines to bring the monster to life that I don't think you could resist that. So I totally forgive him for that.
Right.
The female monster, I have mixed emotions about, but the way he did it actually was interesting. It was an interesting take on it. But yeah, Kenneth Branagh is somebody that's worth checking out too. Whenever you see him in anything, he usually acts, directs, writes. He's another one who does has total control of most of his movies. He's most famous for his Shakespeare stuff.
Right. All right. Well, my first movie is from 1996, The Phantom. Uh, this is basically a action superhero movie, and not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people know that there was actually a comic. I didn't know until I started reading into it, and that it explains how over the years that it's been a different Phantom, just part of his family line, and it's played by Billy Zane, which he he was amazing in the 90s. All the different kind of characters he would play, but it's just basically kind of on the lines of a Batman type character. And,
Precursor to Batman.
yeah, and then I just like that it also has a little bit of because it's taking place in the jungle, it has a little bit of like an Indiana Jones feel to it. So it's like it's because you expect superheroes to be in the city, you know, not out in the jungle or such. But, it's been a while since I'd seen this movie. I caught it the other night on, I believe it was Pluto, and and I would love to have seen it without the commercials because it kind of breaks up the continuity of the whole thing. But it's the only way I could have seen it at that time. But I think it's a fun superhero movie that little known one that I think people, if they are kind of getting tired of the usual suspects of the superheroes, want someone new but not really new, but they want something new to watch. This is something to check out because it's fun. It's really fun. I mean, I'm sure people can nitpick about some of the things that go on, but if you can, I always tell people, if you're going to nitpick about a superhero movie, go watch Shakespeare. Because it's literally it's the type of movie that you check your brain at the door. You should not have to figure out, well, why did he do this or why did that happen? Just enjoy it. I mean, I think with those type of movies, the minute you do that, your experience with the movie is going to be really much better. And it has Treat Williams is in it too, and he's also in the movie. The next one I talked about, Christy Swanson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, James Remar, and Patrick McGowan. It's funny that it was done by a big studio and it flopped. I mean, and I really think that this is the kind of movie, since it's a storyline, that the Phantom is not one character. It's anybody can be the Phantom. So it'd be kind of cool if someone wanted to bring that back, because it'd be whether on the big screen or a small screen would be cool. I mean, but this one's fun, a lot of fun, and obviously it's got a big cult following, and That's
I,
pretty much.
I don't know that I've ever seen the movie. I used to read the comic book many, many years ago, and I actually
Right.
liked the comic book, but I don't know that I ever saw that movie. Did it come out about the same time as like The Rocketeer and
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there was another one. Oh, and Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of those came out about the same time. I think it was once Batman hit, everybody was looking for something to do, and
Yeah. I think that out of those three that you mentioned, Dick Tracy was the more well known of the
Dick
bunch.
Tracy bombed too.
Yeah, that bombed too. And I gotta be honest with you, I wasn't impressed with it. I thought it was there's another one with De Niro in
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I
But
saw Dick Tracy in the theater. I thought it was terrible.
yeah, I mean it was it falls under the category of one and done. Saw it, that's all I need to know. That's it. You know.
There's a funny story about that. Um, he Warren Beatty bought the rights to or was it Warren Beatty? Yeah. Or was it Ned Beatty? No, Warren Beatty. He
Warren
bought
Beatty.
the rights to Dick Tracy. And part of the contract is that he has to use it every so often, or he loses the rights, it reverts back. So every few years, he goes on TV and does a little Dick Tracy show that isn't really Dick Tracy, but he calls it Dick Tracy and pretends to be Dick Tracy on some little public broadcasting channel just to keep the rights away from them from reverting back. And
Wow.
he's going to keep doing that, I guess, until it goes into public domain.
Wow.
That is that's insane. That's crazy. But well, that was my first movie, The Phantom.
Okay, back around to me. My second movie, and you know I couldn't do the 90s without touching on Bill Murray at some point. So I decided to do Groundhog Day. That one seemed to start out kind of small. It wasn't a real big movie, but it seems to have really caught on in recent years. You can't have a Groundhog Day without it coming on television. I think one channel even started doing like a 24-hour marathon on it for a while. It's really a fun movie. It does have some, I don't know, horror, but at least a genre connection anyway, because it's Bill Murray's this real jerk of a newscaster, and he's going to cover Groundhog Day at Punxsutawney, in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and he wakes up and it's Groundhog Day again, and he wakes up the next day and it's Groundhog Day again. You don't really know how long he goes through this, but if you really watch it enough times, it's got to be a couple of years that he's just waking up and it's Groundhog Day every single day. Um, and he really gets caught in this time loop. And I believe it's directed by Harold Ramis, who has a small part in it. And I read that this was the movie that broke up their friendship because he really just got tired of the way Bill Murray acts. But he's quite the perfectionist. We talked about him before, or I usually bring him up. He is a uh, he is an improv actor. He likes to do things differently. He likes to do them his own way, and I appreciate it. I think it comes off on the screen better. So usually when he has these disagreements, I side with him because the end product is better than whatever the director had in mind. It seems to be for me anyway. Um, but I think that movie's hilarious. Actually, I just love when he's up there. He gets for a while here. He gets tired of it. His tie is crooked. And he's up there. It's Groundhog Day again. like, like he's done this every day for you would think like a year or so. Um, and then it does have a message to it too, because he does start to change. He finds this bum and he tries to save his life. He finds out that the bum is going to die on Groundhog Day, so he tries to save him, and he finds that he can't do that. He starts taking piano lessons, and it's like his first lesson every day because he goes to the same house to learn piano. And he also witnesses somebody choking, so he learns the Heimlich maneuver, and the next day he saves the guy's life. Right, so it's like this weird time loop movie that just keeps going over and over and over. And there's always a joke that they're going to come out with a sequel to Groundhog Day and then just re-release the original. That would be like Groundhog Day. I had the long-running joke too when my mom was getting Alzheimer's that it was like Groundhog Day. Every day was just a brand new day. Nothing else happened yesterday. That's the way he feels in the day going forward. But it's a good, fun movie. It's really caught on. Um, and I think it's worth watching if you haven't seen it yet, or if you have seen it already, watch it again because that's the spirit of Groundhog Day.
Just watch it on a loop.
You probably already just watched it.
I might have started making it a tradition around our house. Right around early February, we have to throw on Groundhog Day at some point. But it's a good, fun movie. Bill Murray at his best.
Yeah, that was a good one. I like that one. And that's another one I haven't seen since it was in the theater.
Oh,
I
really?
watched it in the movie theaters.
That's one that I have seen quite a few times since it came out. Death Becomes Her, I hadn't for a long time, and then I finally revisited it. It does look dated in the 90s, Death Becomes Her, but this one still holds up. It looks like it could have just come out last year or something.
Okay, I guess that brings us back around to me. Um, I am going to go with a movie that I think, again, a lot of people didn't like it. And, I'm not saying it's the best one of the bunch, but it was very inventive. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. The Nightmare on Elm Street movies had been going along, and Freddy Krueger was doing his thing. And then rather than just pump out another carbon copy of the things he'd already done, Wes Craven got the bright idea to go completely meta with it and have Freddy Krueger be some real being that's trying to impose itself on our world. And so you see the actors playing themselves as there's a real Freddy Krueger trying to come into our world and start going after them. And I thought it may not be the best movie ever by a long shot, but it is very entertaining, and it was a very, very inventive idea. Um, I think it gets huge points for just thinking completely outside the box. He could have Nightmare on Elm Street was still a big commodity, and he could have just pumped out another one. Instead, he did something completely creative, and I thought that was, kudos to that. It's a fun movie too.
I've heard good things about that. I haven't seen it. That's one that I've been wanting to see. Because I actually heard good things about that one. Um, I thought I heard something that Wes Craven had actually lost the rights after the first movie, and they put his name on it, but he didn't really have any creative until this one, and that was why they called it Wes
Oh,
Craven's New
that
Nightmare.
could be true. That might make
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
that's what I've heard anyway, and that's why he called it the New Nightmare, was because he finally had the rights back, and this is what he did with it. That was one of the reasons that I really wanted to see it.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very interesting movie. It's entertaining, and like I say, inventiveness. Kudos for that. Big kudos for that.
And Wes Craven, if I give him nothing else on anything else, he's always very inventive. He is very inventive in all of
That's
his
true.
movies.
And it kind of went back to a kind of if you can say, serious tone like the first one.
Yeah, because they
after
got
the
pretty
first one,
silly later.
yeah, each one that came out got sillier and sillier, and
I actually thought two was
like,
the worst one, honestly, in my opinion. I
and
thought 3 and 4 was a little better, but I don't know. Maybe not. Although I haven't seen them in a long time, so maybe if I rewatch them, I might have different opinions. But
all right. Well, back to me, and like I said on the first one, this one also has Treat Williams in it, but he's in the lead role, and this movie's called Deep Rising from 1998, and it's an action horror, and it kind of blends those two really good and adds in a heist movie on top of it. But the action and also a disaster, kind of a disaster film aspect to it, and got an ocean liner, with all these rich people on it, and then it cuts over to Treat Williams. He's got these unsavory types that you don't know what's going on. They're out on the ocean, and then they're gonna take over the ship. I mean, heist on the high seas, you know, and then they find out that it's the ship's empty. It's like it was just attacked by a sea monster, and the monster I thought was pretty cool. I mean, I'm sure some people will probably look at it and say, "Oh, now that it's dated looking," but you know, for the time, I thought it was pretty damn cool. And there's one of my favorite scenes is that they're on a jet ski and they're going down the corridors, and then it's like, I mean, how cool would that have been just to get to your room that way? But it has I'm probably gonna butcher her name, Famke Janssen. I think this is one of her first roles, and another failure. This one, every few years I kind of bring it out because it is kind of so fresh. It's a great storyline, and like I said, it just combines so many different genres. So you know you're bound to enjoy one of aspect of it, and oh, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was in The Mummy. He played the little weasel guy, and he's like a tech guy, and it's like yeah, it's like it's a pretty good one. I think if you really like, and I like the name of the luxury line, the Argonautica. Uh, I still think it holds up today just as well as it did back in 1998. And
I haven't seen that one in years, but I remember really liking it.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's high. I mean, in parts, it's like very high octane action stuff going on, and a lot of great moments from when some of the bad guys meet their untimely end. It was fantastic. And the sea monster, not only, you know, the base of it, you know, where it's the mouth and everything, but then it has its tentacles that have open up, and it can suck the person right in, and I like how this went. What it does is basically it squeezes all the life out of you. You basically you like kind of like drown it. But it's a fun movie. If you got, if you hadn't seen it yet, or it's been a while, it's a good one to revisit.
Yeah, I don't think I have seen that one.
You might like it because you like. I mean, maybe that monster could be a kaiju. Maybe
almost. Yeah. It's also kind of Lovecraftian, but
yeah, because just the way it looks. I mean, just all the tentacles.
It has,
and I like that they don't give you any backstory into it. It's just there. I mean, I think they gave like a little bit, but they don't go really deep into it, and I kind of like that sometimes. Sometimes I want to. Yeah, I kind of like that because then you can make up your own mind as to what.
Well, and you think about it, sometimes in real life, you don't know why something is there, You really don't know where this came from, and you never will know, Things
right.
just happen.
That was one thing that I liked about the giant Gila monster.
Yeah.
They never explained
it.
Yeah.
It was just there.
I don't know why it's there. I'm just trying to stay alive. What do I know about why it's there?
Exactly. But this is a good one. I think I think you'll like this one.
I do have a kaiju movie on this list, but we're not there yet.
I'm shocked.
I know, big shock, right? But I
Right.
could have done two.
All right.
All right, so back around to me. All right, so I do have one last comedy. Because I did Mel Brooks' History of the World last time, I wanted to do another Mel Brooks. And my opinion is the last true Mel Brooks movie, in my opinion, was Robin Hood Men in Tights. Other people say the last really good one was before that. I still think this one holds up. I still think it's got some good moments. It still has the Mel Brooks look. The one that comes after it, Dracula Dead and Loving It, that's the one where I really thought he slipped quite a bit. But I think this one holds up. It came out a little after the Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie, so it mainly makes fun of that, although it does make fun of other Robin Hood movies from the past. They do a real jab at it when Robin Hood at one point says, what makes you, somebody asks him, what makes you special? And he says, unlike other Robin Hoods, I can speak with a British accent.
Yeah.
Because I tell you, I watched this back to back with the Kevin Costner one. That one stinks. I really hated that. I didn't like that one at all. But there's an Errol Flynn one from the late 30s, early 40s or something that's worth watching, in my opinion. But anyway, and it does poke a little fun at that one too. It's got some other pretty good people in there. Richard Lewis plays Richard III, Richard playing Richard. And he has a mole that keeps moving, kind of like the hump that keeps moving, right? The mole's over here, and then the mole's over here in the next scene. Somebody says, "Hey, didn't the mole, wasn't that somewhere else on your?" And he says, "What? I have a mole?" So it's got all the Mel Brooks type humor, if you like that kind of stuff, which I'm a huge fan. And it's actually timely because I just found out the other day, Spaceballs 2 is coming out summer of 2027. So
I was going to mention that.
Yeah, he's still doing it. I saw him in an interview about it online, and he's 99 years old. We're about to turn something around there. Yeah. 98 or 99. He still has it. He's with it. Like he doesn't seem, dementia ridden or anything. But
I saw Jim Russ posted and said, I wonder if I'll be back in the desert again. And I wonder if he's gone shit by now.
Yeah. That's a famous scene. Rick Moranis is coming back for that one, by the way.
Yes.
That I have heard.
Which is really big because he doesn't do much.
Not anymore.
He's been in retirement for a long time.
Yeah, I mean I think he came out and did something a while ago that was a charity thing, but he really has been pretty much retired for years, so that he could spend time with his family. But
yeah, it was when he had kids, he wanted to retire. But now
his wife passed away, and so he was a single father. Yeah,
that's right. I did forget about the wife pad, but I did hear that he wanted to be with his kids, and that's why he retired. But I've also seen more recent things. He said his kids are grown up, so he might want to do some movies now and again. So
yeah, and he was always awesome.
He is very good, actually. He's underrated.
Yeah.
Also, Robin Hood Men in Tights, I believe it's the screen debut, or at least early screen, one of his breakthrough movies, at least for Dave Chappelle. So he's in, and he does a big Rodney King joke because it was right around there where the sheriff of Nottingham catches him and they're beating the crap out of him, and he says, "I hope somebody's got some cameras on this." It was right around the time of the Rodney King thing too. So some of Mel Brooks humor, you got to know the time frame of when they came out and what was going on in the headlines. But so he practically he really helped catapult Dave Chappelle's career with that movie too. He's got a very big role in there too. He plays Achu, son of a sneeze. That was his character. And one criticism I heard about the movie too was that his castles look too new. And Mel Brooks was in an interview. He said, "Well, back when this stuff was happening, they were new." I was like, he's got a point there. But anyway, it's worth checking out. I love Mel Brooks, and I don't know what I'm gonna do when he goes. He's like, I grew up with Mel Brooks. The earliest movie I remember seeing in a theater was Blazing Saddles. If I haven't mentioned it before, maybe my parents were warped taking me to see that when I was, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years old. And they took me 3 times, twice in the theater and once at the drive-in. So that's mine. Good film. Men in tights, tight tights, as the song goes.
Okay, well then I guess we're back around to me, and I'm going to go to 1995, um, and a Stuart Gordon film, Castle Freak, um, which I mean, a lot of people he had done a couple of Lovecraft adaptations, and I don't think it's ever mentioned anywhere, but this is sort of an incredibly loose, much looser than any of the others. Uh, a incredibly loose adaptation of The Outsider, or anyway, at least I perceive that, because you've got this being that's like deformed and messed up and living inside this castle, and nobody knows he's there, and he doesn't. And there's even a scene, because in the story The Outsider, there's a scene where he sees himself in the mirror and realizes he's the monster. And there's a scene very much like that in this movie, which I think was a complete nod to The Outsider. But it's got Jeffrey Combs, who, he always worked with Jeffrey Combs, and it's Jeffrey Combs he inherits this castle, and he goes to move over there with his family, and Barbara Crampton, who's in a lot of those with him too, that she's his wife. And it turns out that this other thing, which is actually his brother, is living there, and he didn't know he even existed. And it's got your typical over the top, Stuart Gordon stuff of, gore and lots of nudity and sex. Um, but it's a really fun movie and a really great atmosphere. Very creepy. If you like the other Stuart Gordon movies, you've got to check that one out. And I don't think a lot of people know about it. It kind of went under the radar, and it really shouldn't have. It's as good as the other two. I think the other two Lovecraft adaptations. I think the first two.
You got to give me a list of Lovecraft adaptations sometime, because
Hey, there's a new
movies.
version of the Statement of Randolph Carter that came out recently.
Yes, I did see. I've seen at least part. I haven't sat through the whole thing, but I did see some of that already. I do have to sit through the whole thing, though. Yes.
Okay, inside
Um,
joke, folks. I should explain that. It's one of the silent movies I did recently, and it's out on YouTube. You can check it out.
there you go. I gave you a segue
Yeah, yeah.
to get your self promotion in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, what I saw looked good so far.
yeah.
I think I saw a good half of it, at least. I know it's not that long.
And they also did a
Um,
remake. They did a remake of it.
Castle Freak, yes, and I've not seen the remake.
I haven't either.
I've
It's
I've
been a
not
while
heard good things about it, but
Lovecraft does not adapt to film as well as some others, but I still like to. I still like to hunt him down and watch him anyway, because I love Lovecraft.
yeah, I collect Lovecraft movies, so I've got a lot of them, and some of them I've never seen. Some of them I wish I hadn't seen.
A lot of
There
times
are
they
a
change
couple
the
that,
titles too, so they're kind of sometimes they're a little difficult to hunt down. But whenever I see it on there, I'm like, okay, I'll watch. I'll watch
yeah,
that. I've read
beyond
almost everything of his, pretty close.
was it Beyond the Walls of Sleep, I think is one that I saw, which I don't know what exactly they took from the story, because it doesn't seem to have anything in common with the story, but it's like H.P. Lovecraft's Beyond the Wall of Sleep. And it's like,
Right.
no, this
Has
has
nothing
nothing
to
to
do
do
with
with
the
the
book or
story.
the
This is just
story.
a really bad horror movie.
All right. My next one is from 1995. It's called Empire Records, and this one I revisit this one a lot because I used to work at a record store, so a lot of the things that were going on in the record store were um, I I witnessed myself. Um, Granted, this record store was a lot bigger and brighter than where I worked. Mine was like a hole in the wall, basically. And it starts off where one of the guys, you see him, he's gambling at in Atlantic City, and then he comes back and he thought he had a winning streak, and comes back. Turns out he took the money from the record store to go gamble, and he thought maybe make that money back and put it, Monday morning, put it back into the safe, and none the wiser. Well, no, it just the antics of that, and then they had like an in-store appearance by a character, some teeny bopper guy played by what is his name? Maxwell Caulfield. It had the lead character is played by Anthony LaPaglia. Then it had Debbie Mazar, the girl with the other girl with the interesting eyes. Meg Foster is the other one. Those two have like, I don't know where they got. And it had it was just a really fun movie, more coming of age type movie. And then the record store, the owner was going to sell it out to be one of these big chain stores, and they just at the end they just do some fundraisers so that the manager he can own it. And I mean it's not like the greatest. I mean it's a typical coming of age 90s movies, but it's a lot of fun. I mean they play a lot of good music, and then it just kind of interesting to. It's like looking back when they had at the record stores when they had that little headphone booth, so you can listen to the albums, and kind of. I think that's how Tower was, and it was good. I mean, uh,
I say it's funny because it was funny because that's actually one of my wife loves that movie and I don't like it. And it's funny because I don't like it for the exact, basically the same reason you like it. Because I worked in a lot of record stores and they were nothing like that. And I'm like
no,
going, no, this is nothing like it really was. And so it's hard
no.
for me to get into it.
Well, yeah, it's just there's some parts like the overall big scale of the whole thing. It was a bigger scale version of what I worked at, and like I said, it was like the store I worked in was kind of like the old fashioned Hollywood stores where it was just in some dumpy location, but they had everything you wanted.
I
And
do
that might be
remember.
part of the difference is you worked in LA, right?
Uh,
And my records, and I think that's where that one is set, is like in LA. My record store was out here in the middle of nowhere, Illinois, and it was I worked in actually two different record stores, and they were nothing like that. And maybe
right.
that's part of it, is that maybe that's the LA record store thing was completely different.
Maybe it's a chain because I remember a record. So they had CDs too, but you could have the headphones and listen to a few certain
Yeah,
things. But
you can listen. You can
it
listen.
was some kind of a chain thing. It had movies and books and stuff too. I don't remember the name of that. But I used to go in there. I didn't work there, but I
Was that Media Play?
maybe yeah, it might be.
All right, so funny thing about Media Play, I worked at Sam Goody for a while. That was the second record store I worked at many years later after I worked at the first one. And Sam Goody was run by the same parent company that owned Media Play. Well, the funny thing about Media Play is I lived in Rockford, Illinois. Media Play, the very first Media Play store was in Rockford, Illinois. That was a
Oh,
great
really?
store. I didn't work there, but I worked at one of the Sam Goodies in the area. And it was cool because I got a discount at Media Play, so I could go in there and,
Oh,
use
sick.
my employee discount there too. So, but that was kind of cool. But yeah, so Media Play has a real tie around here. And I think they did have the
Okay.
headphones. Yeah.
Yeah, that might have been. It might have been immediate. It was. I used to work at a grocery store, and it was across the street from the grocery store I worked at. So after work, I'd go over there sometimes and pick out some CDs to buy and stuff. I was still living at home. Money to burn.
Yeah. Yeah. I just read it was taking place in Delaware, but
Oh, well,
um,
that's completely different.
yeah, and And it's like, it's, I get it that, you were, and I never worked for a big chain. This was just like some rich guy. He was rich, just like the owner of Empire Records. And but the only difference is instead of him wanting to sell to, have a big name buy him out, he wanted to emulate Tower Records. My boss wanted to emulate Tower Records, and the manager was saying, don't. Why would you want to do that? There already is a Tower Records. There's like at the time that there was like 3 in the area. So why do you want to, do that? So just have the homeliness of, the independent store. And I think that's in that movie. The second, there was 2 plot points. Actually, there was 3, but there was the kid that took the money, which was based off of a story from a Tower Records employee that out in West Hollywood. So they took that story, then corporate takeover of the place, and then coming of age. So it's like it was a lot of things all rolled into one, and it's a fun movie.
That corporate takeover part should have really resonated with me because my first record store that I worked at was called Disc Records, and it was a chain, but it was like a regional chain. I don't know how many stores there were, but it was probably maybe a dozen stores. And while I was working there, we got bought out by National Record Mart, and the difference between the 2 companies was enormous. I mean, when I started there and it was Disc, it had that sort of record store vibe where everybody who worked there and the whole company itself really was into music. When National Record Mart took over, it was just the product that you sold, and it didn't really matter. It could have been any product, but they just happened to choose that product, and the music no longer mattered.
Right.
It was big business at that point. It was not nearly as much fun once they took over. So I should
Yeah.
really, that part should really resonate with me, but
Right. All right. Yeah. The one, the record store, I think what it was is that yeah, more of it was like almost like an upscale independent store, Empire Records. I mean, it sometimes it kind of looks like that would have been cool to work at, but at the same time, there it had a little corporate vibe to it in itself. I mean, it didn't, it looked new for what it was. But so that's my third one, Empire Records from 1995, 30 years ago.
Okay, back to me. All right, I'm done with comedies, I promise. All right, but I do have a Roger Corman movie, produced only, but Dracula Rising, and this is my 3rd movie in a row from 1993. I just noticed. Dracula Rising, kind of a small movie. I don't know why it didn't do that well. I think it's very good. It does a lot of origin story for Dracula, which I don't know if any of it was Bram Stoker's vision, but his origin story was that he was attacked and they killed his wife, girlfriend when he was very young. So that's why he made a pact with the devil in order to take out revenge on the rest of society. And he's always searching for the reincarnation of his lover at the time. I don't think there's any real name actors in this thing. I just looked at it. I didn't recognize any names that I've ever seen anywhere. Maybe you guys might beat me at that and recognize somebody from something. But the origin story part of this movie is the first portion. And I think they kind of flash back to it a few times after that, too, if I remember. It's been a little while since I've seen it, but I think they do. But anyway, that's really good. When they get to the more modern stuff, he finds another reincarnation of his old lover from a long time. It's okay. It's not terrible, but it kind of becomes your average everyday vampire movie without too much different. It's not bad, but it's not. The origin part is really good. I really like. You should have just done a whole movie with that, actually. But the rest of it still isn't bad. Um, so Dracula, right? And it also, one thing I wanted to mention too, Ron, I think you did Frankenstein Unbound not too long ago,
Yes.
which was
Yeah.
one of the last movies that he produced and directed. And this comes out like a year or two after that. And when I first saw them, I rented them at a video store and watched them both back to back. That with this one, they make a very good double feature if you're into double feature kind of things. So if you want to rewatch that one and then see this one, I would recommend it.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, I guess we're back around to me. I'm sticking with 1995 again, and I'm going with Village of the Damned. I covered the original Children of the Damned, I know, in another episode, and this is like a sequel to Children of the Damned, but this isn't. There's actually a British sequel to that one. This is the American version, and it's John Carpenter. Um, and you got Christopher Reeve in it, and Kirstie Alley, and they've got a facing off against this whole town of kids who are not human kids. They're like from alien thing, and they're basically able to read minds and influence your mind and make you do things, and they're trying to defeat them so that they don't take over the world. And it's a fun movie. I think it's just as good as the British versions. I mean, you can't, I don't know. In my opinion, you can't go too wrong with John Carpenter anyway, but that's me. We've talked about that enough in these.
Yeah.
But yeah, Village of the Damned, I thought it was a really good movie.
I remember that. Again, that was another one. I only saw it in the theaters when it came out. I haven't seen it since. And I enjoyed it from what I can remember. And the kids in the original were damn creepy.
Oh,
Still
yeah.
to this day. I was watching this list and a few months ago, and the guy was talking about creepy kids, and they were right up on that list.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Definitely should be.
But, all right. My next two are directed by Sam Raimi. So the first one, Darkman. Here's another kind of superhero-ish movie. And it's with Liam Neeson, who's a scientist. He's brutally attacked, and he's trying to formulate a certain kind of plastic surgery. And it has Larry Drake in it, which I think he was in LA Law or something like that.
Yes.
Now this is I like to say that this is a very underrated Sam Raimi film. And I do like at the end that there's a little cameo from one of his best friends in it, Bruce Campbell. So I thought that was kind of nice to, it's almost like almost all of his Sam Raimi's movies, Bruce has a little bit part in there, even if
Just like his car shows up in all of them.
Yeah. And I just like the ingenuity of this that he can graft the face to cover up his disfigurement, but he only has a certain amount of time before it starts, breaking down. And I like how the character, Darkman, he's very tortured, because just the way Liam plays it, he's, you really feel bad for him. You feel sorry for him that this has happened to him. And it had two sequels. They were direct to video, and those ones you can skip because it doesn't have Liam Neeson as the lead character. Um, Maybe if it had him into it, it would have kind of made it a little better. But I think I think all you really need to see is the first one. And I kind of, if anything, you want to do like a cool double feature, you watch Dark Man and the Phantom, because they just have the, that '90s superhero vibe to it.
Now that's one I saw in the theater, and I don't think I've seen it since.
I bought the it was a triple feature Blu-ray of the Dark Mans, and all I do is watch the first one. I think I did watch the other two just because when I got this a few years back, but the other two seem to be too, in my opinion, too generic. Where this one had something unique to it.
Recently came to my attention how many horror movies Larry Drake has been in. he's actually done more than you think. He was in Dr. Giggles.
Oh yeah, that one.
And he was in this made-for-TV one that I really like, and I just revisited, and I'll have to cover on another episode. Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. I had no idea it was him at first, and then I rewatched. I'm like, oh my god, that's him again. But anyway, I will definitely talk about that on another episode. That's a good one.
Oh yeah, those. It's a good one if you really want a lesser known, superhero. And it's not really so much, and there's a lot of horror aspect to it. So
definitely.
But that's my third choice.
Okay, final choice. All right, now you get your kaiju. This is another one that's kind of a continuation of the last episode. I did Godzilla 1985, which I mentioned was the first in the Heisei series. So the other movie I was going to do was the last movie in the Heisei series, which many of the fans of the Heisei series, millennials particularly, I'm talking to you, they call this the greatest Godzilla movie ever made. I don't know if I go that far, but it is a very good Godzilla movie. It probably is the best in the Heisei series. Godzilla versus Destroya. They made up a brand new character for him. The behind the scenes of this is that Toho had already sold the rights to Sony, so they had to kill off Godzilla. Spoiler alert, you had to know it had to happen. Everybody knew it happened before they even started filming because Sony had bought the rights. They had to kill Godzilla. And it's the one, you've seen the action figures where he's got the red. Godzilla has red all over him because he's going through a nuclear reaction. Oh, he's got his action. He's got his stuffed. I do actually have a stuffed animal Godzilla upstairs. I should get it for an episode sometime. I got it at Toys R Us. If anybody remembers that place.
Oh my god!
Blast from the past, right? Destroya is a very viable contender to defeat Godzilla. Godzilla. I mean, there's no question he's dying. They say he's dying at the beginning of the movie. He's going through a nuclear reaction, and that's why he's all red. So his breath is even red and everything. But it's a very unique look. And I don't know if I agree with millennials on this part, but the fans of the Heisei series say that Godzilla creates a lot of pathos with his death scene. I don't know if I go that far. That's a bit much, but maybe other people will agree with the millennials and disagree with me. It is still a very good Godzilla movie. Probably is the best one of the Heisei series. And one thing about the Heisei series, they kind of did away with a lot of the human subplots. They kind of said, you know what, nobody pays attention to those human subplots anyway. Humans are just furniture in Godzilla movies. Some of the movies, not this one, still has some human subplots, but some of them in the Heisei series have almost no human subplots at all. Like barely even dialogue. And there is an argument to be made for that. And the other thing about the Heisei series that is worthy of mentioning is at the time, it was in the Guinness Book of World Records. I don't remember which one, but some of them were in the Guinness Book of World Records for having the most pyrotechnics in a film history. So there is a lot of explosions, there's a lot of action. If you do like the action of the Godzilla movies, but you hate the human subplots, the Heisei series is the series for you. I like this human subplot, so that's probably why I like the original series best. And even some of these new ones that are coming out of Japan, the human subplots are way better than even the monster interactions. They're really good.
Right.
And we'll talk about those one day too, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
that's the
I
Heisei
can't
series.
I can't wait till they put out the Heisei series box set because I got the
Yeah, they
other one.
should. They should. There's a lot of there's some good movies in there. They are fun. They're monster romps. You're not going to get a
Yeah,
lot of human interaction if you
and
like that in these newer ones coming out. You're not going to get a lot of that.
and
It's
the
monster.
original series. I mean, come on, you got Godzilla that does this.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, come on.
Godzilla hitting a drop kick. How can you beat
I
that?
know. It's like
It's Godzilla Puroresu. You can't beat
go
it.
wrong. You can't go wrong with Godzilla movies, with one exception, and I think you know wrong.
And that's Godzilla versus Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, yeah,
The
no.
one that they had to sell the rights to make this. Oh, one other thing worth mentioning is Toho did not stop making kaiju movies when they lost the rights to Godzilla, and they actually went with Mothra as their number one monster and came out with a trilogy of Rebirth of Mothra movies, which is another series. Maybe I should even talk about this episode, but I don't know. Save it for another episode. We will talk about that again because those are really good. I love those movies.
Oh yeah, can't go wrong with them. They're just so much fun.
They are. They really are.
Okay,
All right,
well,
Gary.
back around to me. And I'm going to go with a full moon film from 1996 called Head of the Family. Um, Head of the Family is a very goofy movie. It's got horror elements, but I don't think I would call it a horror movie. Um, Basically, it centers around a love triangle with this waitress in a restaurant, but they get involved with people who are kind of like almost a family. It's almost like gangsters, but they're not actually gangsters. They're um, they're like these triplets, only they're messed up triplets. The one is just all muscle and he's got like no brains at all. And then the sister is like super sexual. She can attract any man. And then they got the other one he's got this massive head, which head of the family, real pun for the
Right.
title. He's got this massive head and he's like, can telepathically control people and outthink everybody. And it becomes this whole convoluted, sort of involved game between, all of them trying to outdo each other and outwit each other. And it's packed full of nudity and sex. And a lot of that, it isn't even played gratuitously. It's almost played like you're supposed to laugh at it because it's so fake. It's
Right.
like over the top fake. So it's a weird movie, but it works pretty well. I don't know why, it just works well. It's not really, I usually go for more of the horror type stuff, but this one doesn't have a ton of that. When the family's doing experiments on people in the basement, uh, they've got like a dungeon down there. They got people locked up. They've been experimenting on, and it's pretty crazy.
Now there was a time in the '90s that I was get any full moon movie I was watching.
Me too.
Didn't matter if it was good or bad. I just
Yep.
watching it. And if you remember when you saw them on VHS at the end, they had those little
The Video Zone.
the video zone. Yeah, I
And they
like
put
that.
those, they've been putting those on the DVD and Blu-ray releases too.
That's really cool. I mean, because that was a lot of fun. And I don't think it was the studio, but down where my cousins used to live, there was a full moon thing. I think that was like their distribution plant.
Oh,
Everything would have been sent out, and I was like, pass by there every couple, every so often. And but it doesn't look like anything's happening in the building, because it's in a warehouse district. So it's like, I
Full
mean, if
moon
there was like
still exists.
yeah, but if this building, it just looked like it was, you know, you know, it could have been a horror movie in itself, kind of
Yeah.
going up to the place. It didn't look like it was occupied or anything.
Who knows? Maybe they did use it for a filming location.
But yeah, I mean, if they had a storefront there, I would have been there almost every weekend. Or, okay, I need to buy this one. I need to buy that one. I mean, I know they have something online now, kind of like I want to say a club.
Yeah, yeah. I think the membership thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I do think they also have their own channel, like
They do.
on Prime. I haven't seen it in a while, but and I think is it still a paid one?
Probably.
Yeah, so if you guys anyone out there wants to see Full Moon, B movies, that will probably be the best place to go, other than actually going by. But Head of Family sounds familiar. I do remember seeing the cover.
It's a really odd movie. I mean, it's not like any of their other movies. I mean, it has elements, the familiar Full Moon elements, but it really isn't like any of their other movies. It's just a weird little mix match of different genres into something that somehow works and holds together, as absurd as it is.
Right. Yeah, they had some weird titles later on in the 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
Was it Evil Bong and things
Yeah.
like Ginger Dead Man. Ginger Dead Man.
That's a fun movie, actually.
Yeah.
That's the same company that did Evil Bong. I've actually heard that's one that I've heard of.
Yeah.
I didn't know Full Moon did that one. I thought it was more indie, but
oh,
no,
was it
that's
okay.
Yeah, I think it was a Full Moon. Or one of its subsidiaries, All right. Well, my final one is the second film that was directed by Sam Raimi, Army of Darkness, which is the third in the Evil Dead series. And as the movie's gone on, it went more. It's going more and more to slapstick, and this is like almost full on slapstick. I mean, one-liners. I mean, really good zingers too.
They literally did a Three Stooges routine at one point.
Yeah, and yeah, when he had
I love Klaatu, Verada.
yeah, it's just like I forgot it. And that would be, for the most part, almost every person would forget that. It's if someone told you to say those three words, and you always mess up the third one.
Unless, of course, you're a fan of The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Right. True. Well, this one, like I said, is very comedic, and the one thing that I don't like about it is the way the title is. Now people don't, Army of Darkness. They should have put in the Evil Dead moniker in there somewhere, so at least people that saw the other two will know. Oh, okay, this is part of the series. It's like only diehard fans really understood that this was part of the series. Like I said, a lot of one-liners like "Hail to the King," "This is my boomstick," and I love how when he shoots one of those deadites, it does that backflip thing. It's like, yeah, okay, Yeah, that really happens, and I just
Yeah.
like that it's all over the top. It's like everything's over the top. I mean, there was some blood in it, but not like Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2, I thought had the most blood out of those three. Um, I guess it depends on who you ask. If it's a good movie or if it's a bad movie. It's a fun. That's, I mean, that's really all. I mean, you got to go into it with an open mind. And again, this is one of those movies you check your brain at the door, because you're just going to see some wacky shit, and you know, but I do enjoy it. And then of course they return with that Ash versus Evil Dead series, which I enjoy that too. I mean, I think I would have preferred a movie over the series, but that was good enough. Um, and I like that it takes place in King Arthur's court. So it was it would have been funny as like if they were it was could have been like it's kind of a little bit of play on the Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's court as well.
Exactly.
So and then of course our favorite book, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis is there. Always has to make an appearance in an Evil Dead movie. I saw this in the theaters. This was, out of the three, this was the only one that I saw in the theaters.
Same here.
And I really wish I would have seen the other two in the theaters, but the first one, since it was very graphic for 1981. I don't think my dad would have taken me to see it, although he took me to see some graphic movies. But there's really not much else to say except this is you got to see it. If you've only seen the first two, you got to see this one, or if you don't, this one is almost could be a standalone film too.
Yeah,
I guess that's why they did it as Army of Darkness. They just so it works so many different ways.
That was one I wanted to see in the theater, but couldn't get anyone to go with me again. Typical. Which I could drive by then, but I don't know. I didn't want to go to the movies by myself.
It's just a little behind the scenes stuff. This one almost made my list, and then Ron wanted to put it on his list, so I'm like, go for it. I've got some other movies because I absolutely love that movie too. And the very fact that they went from horror movie, like more pure horror, to suddenly action adventure comedy, over the top crazy. I love that they did that, and they just completely turned it on its head. When I went into the theater, it was not what I expected, but I was like, I don't care. This was a lot of fun,
Right. And I was just reading that they had an original ending that was very bleak. So, and I saw like the very rough cuts of that original ending, and I'm like going, that would have been good, but then I think that would have, put an end to the series right there, because where else can you go after that?
Well, at the time, it was probably wanted to end the series. I think, my understanding. Nothing ever ends in Hollywood, though. If you don't want to.
No.
Not if it makes money.
Not if it's making money. Yep.
Yeah. They'll find a way to bring anything back.
Yeah, I mean that's a fun movie. I mean,
yeah, at the time I would have been among those who didn't really know it was part of a series, but I think somebody had mentioned it at some point, and I don't know. I have seen it since, though. I have managed to see it VHS and streaming and things like that. But it is a good fun movie. Wasn't what I expected the first time I saw it, because by that time I had seen the other two Evil Dead movies.
Right.
But
I'll admit, the first time I saw it, I was a little taken aback. I was like, going, wait a second. I like the idea that he went back in time, that they they went more in depth to this, but then it just, I mean, it got a little too silly. So, I mean, it took me many years before I finally appreciated, oh, okay, now I get it, you know. So, I mean, that's the beauty of someone watching it now is like you can watch it and you'll get it instantly because, you know, you didn't wait, let's see, 87 to 90, 92. So you didn't wait all those years for something to come out. You know, you can now go and buy the movies, you know, stream. I don't know if you could stream these. Maybe Army of Darkness.
They come and go. They come and go on streaming.
But they even have an Ultimate Evil Dead collection, but it's 4K. And I believe it's out of print already. Like, I really wish that I get it. They want to go. They're trying to get the 4K people, but I kind of wish that they would have put it as a Blu-ray as well. You know, just a standalone Blu-ray set.
I will say that you know, I might have in the Evil Dead trilogy, original trilogy, I will have some that I like better than others, but I think all three of them are actually good. I can't say any of them are terrible, at least not in my opinion. I think they're all good. They're all good, fun movies to watch. There's none of them are bad.
Of the three, the one I really don't care that much for is 2. And the only reason I don't really care that much for it is the first half of the movie is basically just a rehash of the first movie. And I'm like, I've already seen it.
There is that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing I would have to say got me is like, okay, why did you're telling me the story? And then of course now you're downgrading it to just 2 people.
Yeah, they changed that. They had less people, and it was like
it's almost a remake of 1, actually.
Yeah,
yeah.
Of.
It's really more of a remake than a 2, but
and I think they did that.
I still enjoy all
three. They did that all on purpose because some people thought maybe it was the studio, but I think it was Sam Raimi who did that. Almost, I want to say if he did it himself, did it as a jab to the thing just to see if anybody noticed.
Or either that, or maybe he was not all that happy with the way the first one turned out, and he thought, well, let's do this the way I would do it now. And you know,
that's my interpretation. Was he had more money to do better special effects, and he wanted to upgrade, you know, what the first movie was in some ways. At least that's the way I read. I haven't read anything.
That's how I see it too. I mean, because I think the first one was actually a college project, if I remember.
I think it started out as
Yeah. I even on YouTube, the original, it's like a 30-minute student film, Within the Woods, or something like that. It was 1978.
I think something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I think he does finish it after college, but a lot of the footage is from that original project.
Yeah.
And it's completely different. And that set, it was an Indian burial ground. It wasn't these Deadites thing. It was. So it was really interesting. Yeah, that I really think people will dig this one, and that's my final pick. So we got 15 movies for everyone out there to go explore. Like we say in the past, if you have 5 that you think that we should see, or that maybe we have, you know, or your 5 favorite from the 90s, it'd be kind of interesting to see what everyone else's picks were. And who knows, you might stump us and we're going, oh, I never heard that one.
Yeah, it certainly can happen.
All right. Well, thank you guys again. I think we had a good episode. And for everyone out there, we are recording this on Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
I almost wore a Friday the 13th shirt, and then I was like, yeah, it's not going to air on Friday the 13th.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Right. That's the thing. Yeah.
We compare shirts during every episode. I got David Bowie.
Yeah.
If anybody was wondering what I have there.
And I got support indie film because,
I
near
just
and
got
dear
a
to my
plain-
heart.
I've seen a few
plain
80s
British.
David Bowie movies, but I don't know of any 90s David Bowie movies, at least none that I've seen anyway.
Right. All right, guys. Well, I look forward to talking to you guys again about more movies.
Yeah, always
All
fun.
right. It's always fun.
Thank you very much for watching this episode. And stay tuned for the next one.